Hey, it's Mistress Carrie, reporting for duty from MCHQ for episode 56 of the Mistress Carrie podcast. This episode of the podcast is sponsored by Digital Federal Credit Union, better known to all of us by now. Come on, they're DCU. Take advantage of historically low mortgage rates with DCU. Now, through the end of June, DCU is willing to cover up to $3,000 in closing costs when you refinance your mortgage. Learn more at dcu.org/mortgage. DCU is an equal housing lender insured by the NCUA, NMLS number 466914. Membership required. That's dcu.org/mortgage. This episode of the podcast is also sponsored by Jumptown Skydiving. Come on, you've been locked in the house for over a year. It's time to get out and live a little. Why not go and check off jumping out of a plane off your bucket list? And if you're going to do it, go to America's oldest skydiving drop zone, easily accessible off of Route 2 in Orange, Mass. They're open 7 days a week. And if you work in the service industry, Jumptown knows you can't take time on the weekends to go do fun stuff. That's when you're making your money. So there's service industry discounts on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. $185 tandem jumps. And if you put a group together from work, for every person you bring, you get $10 off your jump. Bring 10 people and you jump for free. Give skydiving a try at Jumptown. Log on to jumptown.com for more details or book your discounted tandem jump at 978-544-5321. Okay, this episode of the podcast is with someone that I have known, it's got to be almost 30 years now. Back in the mid-90s, Rob was a member of a band called Boiler Room, which is when I met him. I reconnected with him a few years later, believe it or not, on the side of the stage watching Puffy. Puffy put a rock band together, and Rob, my friend Sean, and some other guys were there to play for him. Then Rob joined Anthrax, and we kept in touch. And years ago, he was producing and then joined Volbeat. The band recently announced 2 new songs being released for the summer. One called Wait a Minute, My Girl, and the other is called Dagon 4, or Dagon 4. Well, you find out in the interview. So I had a chance to sit down and catch up with Rob Caggiano to talk about how he spent his lockdown, to talk about Volbeat and new music, how to pronounce Dagon 4. And he was sitting outside in nature. Oh, trust me, you're going to hear the birds chirping. We talked about everything from music and inspiration to where to get the best Italian food in Boston. If you're a Volbeat fan, you are going to love this. I'm really excited for you to get to know Rob. So allow me to introduce you to Rob Caggiano from Volbeat.
Hey, what's up? This is Sully from Godsmack. Strap on those boots, baby, because you are now in the trenches of the war room with the one and only Mistress Carrie right here on the Mistress Carrie podcast.
What's up? This is Joe Rogan, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Her hair so lovely, pretty eyes.
Hey, this is Brent from Shinedown, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie. Hey, Carrie, go put your bra on, girl.
Hey, this is Steven Tyler, and you be listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
What's up? This is Aaron from Stain, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Hi, everybody. This is Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters, and you're listening to the one, the only Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is David from the band Disturbed, and you're listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
Hi, Bruce Dickinson here from Iron Maiden. Yes, indeed, Miss Whiplash herself, Mistress Carrie, is here to unchain your brain.
Hi, this is Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. You're listening to Mistress Carrie.
This is Dennis Leary. You are listening to my favorite, Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is Corey from Stone Sour, and you have the privilege of listening to Mistress Carrie. Oh, God. Oh, yeah.
Well, hello, Rob.
Hello there, Carrie.
How are you?
Doing good. Hanging in there.
You look like you're communing with nature right now. What are you doing?
I'm just outside. It's so nice out today here in New York.
Yeah, there was quite the heat wave lately. Now you can actually go outside and not die.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, really, really nice today.
So, anything happened in the last year and a half?
Besides the world ending?
Last time I saw you guys, you were touring with, was it Korn? Was that the last show I saw?
No, I think you were at the Knotfest. I think it was the Knotfest tour.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
That feels like it was 10 years ago, actually.
I know, right? And how much we just took normal backstage interviews at concerts for granted.
Yeah. No, I was just talking to a buddy of mine yesterday about, because we're obviously going to be going out there soon. Every band is going to be out on the road again soon, but it's like the backstage area is going to be real weird, I think. As if it wasn't weird enough already.
Touring has gone through some weird things. After Dimebag got killed, bands looked at security and backstage stuff and, security at venues. I mean, everything changed after that. And now I think, and then after the Great White show, everything changed when it came to fire safety and kind of all of that stuff. And now there's this huge kind of, bands just want to be able to go out on the road. And it's like, do I got to wear a full body condom to do it? That's what I'll do then.
Yeah, it's just, what a weird time to be alive, huh?
Well,
it's crazy.
I want to apologize because most people are blaming WAF going off the air after 50 years as triggering the apocalypse. Because it happened a couple weeks before COVID really hit.
I remember that.
And
I remember that.
I've been telling everybody, well, look, I was out of work and home, locked down, socially distancing before it was cool. Before everybody else was laid off, I got laid off first. So quite the trendsetter. And it's just crazy.
Yeah. I mean, what's really, really crazy is it felt like right before all of that happened, the entire, everything was crazy. It was just there was something in the air. I can't even explain it. A really good friend of mine was, rest in peace, my friend Amy. She was murdered in LA. And it was literally right around that time. It was in February. And I remember, I was actually in LA at the time. And I talked to my mother. She was telling me about this virus and this and this and that. And she's always telling me about some kind of virus or whatever. I didn't take it seriously. But I flew from LA to New York and I stayed in the city for a few days and hung out with some people and met up with some friends and just, business as usual, going to restaurants, whatever. And it was like days before everything got real weird here in New York, and that was it. And, the crazy thing also is, New York kind of exploded with the cases, but it was literally in the town where my parents live. It was literally a few blocks away from where my parents live. So that whole thing was just totally insane because my parents were not really, they didn't really know how to deal with it. And, it's a funny story. At the time, they were telling you don't go out, don't go to stores and this and that. So we were ordering food in, but my father wasn't really listening. He was going to the supermarket, no mask, whatever. So I'm like, are you crazy? So I actually literally I gave him 4 flat tires so we would leave.
You popped your dad's tires to keep him from going grocery shopping?
For real. Yeah, he wasn't getting it. He just wasn't getting it. He just kept going out. And I'm like, what are you doing? We don't even know what's going on. We don't know what this is. Just stay put for a little bit until we figure it out, Anyway, so yeah.
That's a very New York thing to do. Most people would hide the keys. You're like, nope, flat tires, buddy.
He's got all kinds of spare keys and stuff. Yeah, I tried that actually. It didn't work.
And for anybody that, has their parents, those are the people that we're most worried about.
Yeah.
Trying to protect them.
Absolutely.
You have a very strange situation. I've talked to a lot of bands that have a member that lives outside the U.S. You know, Evanescence, Pop Evil. You're the reverse, where you're the only guy in the U.S. and everyone else is overseas. What was that like being in Volbeat the last year and a half?
I mean, it was weird. Obviously, you know, we couldn't get together. Well, those guys, I guess, you know, it was weird in Denmark too. I mean, they were locked down pretty hard, from what I hear. You know, the rest, as was the rest of the world. You know, so, but yeah, we couldn't get together and rehearse, and you know, couldn't do what we normally would do. So it was a weird time. Definitely a weird time.
And somehow through all of it, you guys managed to work on a couple songs, and you just released them. So the first thing I'm going to ask you is how to pronounce it. Is it Dagan 4? Are you bilingual yet? How does this work?
You're asking the wrong dude. I've been saying Dagen 4, but obviously I don't have the Danish accent, and I'm not pronouncing that correctly. I heard Michael say it, and my tongue just doesn't even do that. I can't do it.
Have you tried? Have they tried to talk you into taking language lessons?
Picked up a few things here and there, you know, some of the basic stuff. Crew boosting, band boosting, crew bus, band bus.
A New York accent isn't exactly the easiest accent to try and learn a foreign language with either.
Right. And the Danish, I mean, I haven't really tried to learn Danish, because those guys, they all speak English too. So it's cool, but it seems like it would be a really hard language to learn. You know, just like the way it sounds, it sounds like it's very, very difficult. Maybe it's not, I don't know. I would guess it would be very hard to learn it.
I watch a lot of TikTok videos because I got sucked into it through the lockdown. And I love when people have immigrated to the United States and they're learning English as a second language, and they point out all of the idiosyncrasies to show how stupid English really is. Because we don't notice it because we grew up here.
Right.
So you guys work on these 2 new songs, and you have to do it through the wonders of modern technology. How did you guys logistically pull this off? Well,
I mean, you know, the reality of it is with the way technology is, you can work remotely. I mean, I've been doing that for years on many different projects. But I mean, basically they went in, recorded some tracks, and they sent me the stems. And I had a studio set up here, and yeah, I did my groove, and they did theirs, and put it all together. That's basically it.
Can you imagine if this happened like back when you and I were growing up, when we were in the hallway on the hardwired phone, like with 4 channels on the TV? Can you imagine what this would have been like?
I so want to go back to that to those times, like it. For real. I mean, things were just so great back then, and simple, just simpler, you know?
Some things were simpler. I know, Rob, tell that kid to get off the lawn behind you. Tell him.
Oh, yeah.
Things were simpler, but like, you know, right now you wouldn't have been able to work on songs unless you did it through the mail.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, everything, you know, back then, if it happened, everything would have really come to a standstill, you know, I guess. I mean, for a band like this, where there's, you know, like you said, I'm here, they're in Denmark, and, you know, it definitely is difficult, but you know, it's like, I know a lot of friends here in the States that are musicians, and, you know, they just kept recording and writing and doing, you know, it really didn't affect creative people as much as you would think, you know what I mean? It really didn't, because you can't really stop creativity. And like I said, I mean, you could work remotely these days, and that's good. So that's basically what I've been doing. I've just been working like crazy, and working with different artists, and writing, and producing stuff, and just keeping busy, you know, just having fun. And one of the cool things about, you know, one of the positive things about it, you know, I talked about my parents before, you know, them having a hard time at the beginning, but one of the best things about this whole crazy pandemic for me was just having the time to actually spend with my parents, so, because I'm always on the road,
Well,
so that was really.
That was what I was going to say, is that the thing with the creative people that it affected was obviously their paycheck.
Right.
And the other is their ability to travel. And so for somebody like you that is constantly on the go, constantly doing a bunch of stuff, the world forced you to have forced family fun time.
Yeah. And it was great. Absolutely great. I haven't been home in New York for this long since I was, I don't even know, 16, maybe 17. I'm usually home for 2 weeks and then I'm gone somewhere. If I'm not touring, I'm out, working on a record or working on music with someone or, whatever. I'm just always doing stuff. So for me, it was really weird. It took me a minute to adjust as well. But, yeah, I embraced it. I made the best of it. And like I said, having that family time was really good.
How long did it take you to unpack the suitcase and put your clothes back in the bureau?
I don't even know if I actually unpacked my suitcase. I don't think I did, actually.
What did you enjoy the most when you were home with your parents? Like what were some of just the regular everyday things that you just haven't been able to do, that you just loved being able to do again?
Just having dinner with them every night, that kind of thing. And catching up on all these, Netflix shows and all that stuff. Because there's I usually never have time to watch those shows. So I'm always like jealous of people that get wrapped up in these series and, these certain shows or whatever. But yeah, it was great. I caught up on a lot of stuff. And yeah, I don't know. It's simple stuff. We weren't doing anything too fancy, just basic stuff that, I normally miss out on.
Sunday dinners with mom's meatballs.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys worked on these songs and obviously had to do it remotely. What's the plan with them? Is this off a new record? Did you just want to release a couple songs because you just felt like releasing new music? I mean, what's going on?
I mean, there will be a record at some point. I don't know when. We just started working on some new ideas. That's basically what these two songs are. But we are a rock band and we do make music. So yeah.
One of the things that's been hilarious to me, vinyl's been back for a while, and you guys do a great job with your collectible limited edition vinyl for people that are really into that, which I love that it's become such a huge thing again. What I can't believe is all the bands that are starting to get back into cassettes again.
Yeah, I don't know where they're playing these cassettes. I don't get it. Honestly, I have no idea where they're playing cassettes, but I agree with you. I've been seeing that. It seems to be really big in the extreme metal world. Been seeing a lot of like limited cassette releases, limited run cassette releases. But I don't know where they're playing it.
Cassette players are not exactly easy to find.
Yeah, I mean, if I had a cassette right now, I wouldn't know. I have no idea where I would play it. No clue. I don't have a cassette player.
And
I don't even have a CD player.
You don't have a what?
I don't even have a CD player. Don't.
Anybody that wants cassettes now never lived through it before and never had the panic of looking for a pencil to fix a cassette emergency.
I remember those. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I don't really miss cassettes because I never thought they sounded very good compared to the vinyls.
Well, the vinyl I understood. The big artwork, the bifold, the actual gram of the vinyl, the colored vinyl, the picture disc, the actual audio quality. That I understand it all.
Totally, yeah. Absolutely. Because I mean they definitely do sound different than CDs. And it's actually a different mastering process for vinyl than it is for CD. Well, technically it should be. I don't think a lot of people do that, but it should be. It's a different mastering process.
Some people might not know that you're also a producer. You're not just the guitarist in Volbeat, but you're a producer. Right. So when you talk about the mixing and mastering of an album for vinyl versus digital, Can you actually talk about that process? Because I haven't been able to really talk to anybody on the podcast that can talk about it.
I mean, sure. I could probably talk for weeks about it, but what do you want to know?
Well, first of all, for anybody that's listening that doesn't know what mixing and mastering is, can you give me the basic Webster's dictionary definitions?
Oh, so mixing basically, how do I put it in layman's terms? Well, basically when you're recording a record or a group of songs, actually, let's just make it one song. Recording a song, you have a bunch of different tracks. You have the bass drum, you got the snare drum, you got the hi-hat, you got the whole drum set on separate tracks. You got your guitars, your bass guitar, your rhythm guitars. It's usually left and right, or depending on how much you're layering stuff. Basically, all your different things are on separate tracks. So mixing basically is you're bouncing everything down, getting all the levels right, and making sure everything works nicely together, frequency-wise, so nothing's fighting. You can hear everything clearly, and you're just bouncing it down to a stereo file that can be played. And when you play the stereo file, you're basically hearing back 20, 30, 40 tracks sometimes in one.
So when you're listening to like an old Hendrix record and Jimmy's guitar goes in one ear, through your head, to the other ear and back again, that's all the stuff you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, obviously records back then were made, way differently than they are today. A lot of that stuff was cut live and, very minimal mics and stuff like that. But yeah, the basic gist of it is the same. Mixing is just bouncing everything down, and making everything, like I said, making sure nothing's fighting with each other. All the frequencies are there and nothing's missing. Nothing's like fighting for attention, stuff like that. And, mixing is an art, it's like, obviously it's an art. People spend their whole lives trying to nail that art. It could be a real crazy thing, it depending on how deep you get with it, because there has to be dynamics. And, at the end of the day, you're trying to move people. Music is, you're trying to connect with people, a bad mix could ruin a song. A great mix can make a song that isn't so great something more than it is. You know what I mean? So it's an art, and it's definitely a serious thing.
And then what's the difference between mixing and mastering?
So mastering basically, that comes into play. That's like the final stage in the process. Once all the songs are mixed, you send it to the mastering engineer. One of my best friends, actually, one of our best friends, Paul Logus, is a great mastering engineer. And so you send it to a guy like that, and he takes all the tracks, makes sure that all the levels are consistent between the songs, the spacing between the songs, and it's also like a final EQ adjustment. Once again, mastering is an art. A bad master can completely ruin a record. Totally. I've had songs go to mastering and come back like completely out of phase and totally weird sounding. It's like, what the hell happened? So. And
those masters are the recordings that bands fight over the rights to. They're the recordings the old recordings that people talk about preserving, and the original masters getting put in the Library of Congress or in the Smithsonian, or when there's a fire at a record label in the vault. These are the masters, the final original recordings that everybody talks about.
Well, yeah, yes and no. I think you're referring to, well, back in the day, it would have been the tapes, like the analog tape, the reel-to-reel tapes. That was what you would consider the master. Those are the recordings for whatever the album is. And so as far as that goes, things are a little bit differently, because things work a little bit differently now, obviously, because it's some people still work on tape, but most people are not working on tape. So a lot of it is just hard drives, stuff like that.
So one of the things that people are wondering about, and we touched on it a little bit, is how do we all go back to normal and go to concerts and tour? And Brad Whitford from Aerosmith came out recently and was commenting about the difficulty about Brexit and bands touring in Europe and work visas and trying to work all of that stuff out. So you guys aren't just juggling COVID stuff, but you're juggling all of the European political stuff with Brexit as well.
Yeah, there's something going on in the UK. I don't. It was explained to me a couple times, and I don't totally understand it really. I have to sit down with a few people and just really wrap my head around it. But it's something to do with the tour buses and the Brexit and the new laws, the new rules, for drivers and stuff. And the long and short of it, it's going to be really difficult for bands to tour over there. So I don't really know. I think they're all trying to figure it out. And I think certain bus companies might be possibly relocating outside of the UK. I don't really know. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's the entire world is upside down, basically.
Now, one of the other things that you did riding out COVID was you were doing like guitar lessons online, right?
No, I've never done guitar lessons online. The people keep asking me to do them. I might actually do something soon, but I've never done that.
Were the videos that I saw then you just kind of explaining your guitar parts? I saw some guitar playing videos on YouTube.
Yeah, I did a thing with Guitar World where I was basically showing them how to play our single back then. This was like, last year. So I did a couple of things like that. But as far as like actually giving guitar lessons to people, no, I haven't done that.
They said that last year in the height of the lockdown, 1,000 guitars were being purchased a day in the United States.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
So when people talk about the future of rock and roll and where rock is at, because you and I have been hearing that rock is dead for 25 years?
Rock ain't dead, never was dead. It ain't going to be,
What advice do you have for somebody that bought one of those guitars during the lockdown? That's just trying to pick it up and learn it as a hobby, or maybe it's a kid that thinks maybe they want to be the next Rob Caggiano from Volbeat.
Well, I mean, the first thing I would say is, hone your craft. You got to put the time in. A lot of the younger generation, from what I'm noticing, it just seems like there's an attention span thing that's happening where these younger kids, they have so much stuff going on, TikTok and this and that. It's just, they have a hard time focusing. And for something like the guitar, you need to focus, you need to put the time in, you need to dedicate your stuff, yourself to the instrument. And there's really no shortcut, There's no YouTube video that's going to make you a great guitar player. There's no, there's no shortcut, there's no quick fix. There's nothing. You have to literally put the time in, bust your ass, and that's it. And eventually, you pick it up and you get to the point where you can actually have fun with it and come up with your own ideas and hopefully, interact with other musicians, jam with, different players and drummers and whatever. And that's where you have fun, but yeah, it could be tedious. It's like anything else, guitar, honing that craft is a serious thing. Doesn't happen in 2 weeks.
Hopefully some of those people bought some of your guitars. You have a Jackson signature guitar that just so happens to be the same color as my hair. I'm going to just tell everybody that It's a tribute to me.
Yeah, the Jackson Shadowcaster. Purple's my color, and I've been playing a purple guitar for years, and I'm really stoked on this new signature model. I think the guys at Jackson are absolutely incredible. They're wizards, and for me, actually, I learned a lot, designing this guitar and working with them. Just about it's just stuff that I never thought about as a guitar player. I go on stage, my tech hands me the guitar, and I rock and I do my thing. But there's certain things about the actual instrument that I never even thought about. There's so much that goes into guitar construction and stuff like that. So yeah, that was an amazing process. Designing that guitar and just figuring out all the little details, like what wood I like, and for every wood sounds different. Like tonally, it's a little bit different.
Was that the biggest surprise for you? Was the wood tones? What shocked you being a guitar player for years?
It forced me to think about and be aware of all of these little details that I never thought about, like the distance of the bridge, like where the volume knob is, like all of this different stuff, like the contour where you rest your arm. I'm geeking out here, but it's all of these like minor things that when you're designing a guitar, you got to think about. But this was actually my first time designing a guitar from the ground up with the company. And it was a crazy experience, but awesome, and I'm really proud of the end result. I think those guys totally nailed it, and the guitar screams. It's a beautiful guitar.
Do you still have your first guitar?
I don't. My first guitar was, my very first guitar, I was 4 or 5 years old. I had this little red acoustic, and I used to wear a hat just like this when I was a little kid, and I used to bang on that guitar and do shows. I had a stage name too, apparently.
You did? Do you know what it is?
Bobby Jaguar.
That just became a hashtag, just like that. I'm never, ever calling you Rob ever again. You are forever going to be known as Bobby Jaguar.
It's a true story. I mean, my father tells a story to everybody that we meet. So it's like, it's already out there. So, but yeah, it's pretty funny.
Why did they buy you a guitar? Was it something you asked for? Did somebody else in the family already play? Where did this musical ability and drive come from?
Well, my father's obsessed with music. He's probably more obsessed with music than I am. He really, really lives and breathes it, He was never really a musician, although he does sing. In his later years, he started singing. He's really good. He's like a crooner. Does like all the Sinatra, Tony Bennett type of stuff. But yeah, I think right from the get-go, he saw that I was maybe musically inclined and I was really into it, and he got me a guitar, and I was literally, I would just bang on the guitar. Obviously couldn't play at 5 years old. Or maybe I could, I don't know. I don't remember, but it wasn't until I was 9 years old, or 9 or 10, that that was it. I heard Van Halen, I heard AC/DC, and that was it. I was completely done. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And I knew, that was it. I knew what I needed to do to get there. I think, back then I knew I needed to really dedicate myself to it. And I just couldn't get enough of it though. As a kid, I was so I was in love with the guitar. It really was, you had to pry it out of my hands. So.
You're another example, and the list is so long it can't even be named, of guitar players that cite Eddie Van Halen as inspiration for you picking up the guitar and wanting to chase that dream. I haven't talked to you since he passed. What does Eddie Van Halen's legacy mean to you, and what was it like as a guitar player to lose him for you?
I mean, I was devastated. I mean, I was crying for sure when I heard that news. He was definitely my biggest inspiration. He was my hero, and I think a lot of guitar players, will tell you that. He was, his impact on rock music and on the guitar specifically I don't even know how to say it. I mean, he really just changed everything about everything. The way guitars are actually made, he changed that. All the stuff I was just talking about. He was so innovative, and he came up with so many groundbreaking ideas. It's just ridiculous. And his playing, nobody can touch him, in my opinion. He just made it look so easy, and he made it look so fun. And I think that's what really resonated with me as a kid, looking at this guy playing all this crazy stuff, and he's just smiling the whole time. You know, it made me, I'm like, that's what I need to do. Like, I want to do that, you know? So that was it for me. He was the coolest, you know, he was the ultimate guitar god. I don't think there will ever be another Eddie Van Halen.
I had a chance to meet him a couple times, and one time Brent from Shinedown brought me backstage in his dressing room when they were touring with them, and it was just me and Brent and Eddie and Wolfgang, who obviously was younger, and Eddie was just sitting in a leather chair in his dressing room, and he was just like noodling on the guitar. And one thing that I noticed particularly is it seemed like the pads of his fingers, like the top knuckle of his fingers, was bigger than anybody else's hands. Like, I remember while I was standing there, I was mesmerized watching him just noodle. But then I remember thinking, his hand almost looks too big to be moving around and have that kind of dexterity. Now, as somebody that plays the guitar, the actual structure of your hand goes into what kind of guitar and all of the nerdy stuff you were talking about, the neck, the frets, like all of that stuff. It all goes into bettering your ability to move up and down the neck and be able to do all of the stuff that he did.
Yeah, his hands were huge. I never met Eddie, unfortunately. I've met everybody. I met pretty much all of my idols. He was the only one I never met. And, but yeah, there's, my hands are really, really big. So
hey,
I hear it all
the time. No need to brag, Rob.
No.
Bobby Jaguar.
My fingers are really fat, and, you know, I hear it all the time. Like, how do you play? You know, how do you do that? Your hands are so big or whatever. You just get used to it. But there's in LA, Guitar Center, outside of Guitar Center, they have, you know, like the Rock Walk of Fame, whatever they call it. And they have in the sidewalk, Eddie's handprints. So of course, you know, I put my hand in there, but his handprint was huge. So that's the only thing I'm going off of, because I never actually met him. But yeah, his hands were really big. I think his fingers were long too. But, you know, one of the crazy things, or one of the most awesome things about Eddie Van Halen is he would sound like him no matter what. You could put him through my rig or anyone's rig, he's going to sound like Eddie, because the tone comes from your fingers ultimately, you know? So yeah, rest in peace. He was the best.
It's so funny that you bring that up, because I had Nuno Betancourt on the podcast and we were talking about Eddie Van Halen, and he got brought to a Van Halen rehearsal, and
so jealous.
And Eddie let him play his rig. And Nuno, who's a pretty proficient player in his own right, said, this is my moment to finally sound like Eddie Van Halen. And he threw the guitar over his, the strap over his neck, and he started playing, and he goes, I was so pissed because I still sounded like myself. I didn't sound like Eddie. And I've had so many guitarists on the podcast talk about the player being ultimately what makes the sound. And Nuno had Eddie's guitar, Eddie's strap, Eddie's cord, Eddie's pedals, Eddie's amp. He literally was doing everything but wear his underwear, and he still couldn't sound like Eddie.
Right. Well, that's because Nuno is amazing in his own right, and he has a very identifiable sound. You know, he's a great player. So, of course, he has his own thing, and he's always going to sound like that no matter where he plays. It's the same thing with Eddie. Yeah, the thing about Eddie is he invented all the stuff that we all do. You know what I mean? That's kind of the difference.
Eddie also did something that I think a lot of younger generations might not even realize in the collaborations with artists outside the genre, like a Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think is happening in these new generations, I bring it up because one of the things I've seen you do in your career is like go on stage with Puff Daddy. Right?
Right.
Because I was there that day.
Were you there? Wow,
yes.
That's awesome. Yeah, that was a crazy show, huh?
Well, my friend Sean, your friend Sean, who played bass that day, I told him I was going to talk to you. He told me to tell you hello.
Oh, tell me so. What's up?
But you guys played on stage when the Godzilla soundtrack came out, and Diddy kind of took Led Zeppelin and kind of made it his own, and he needed a live rock band.
Yeah.
And I bring it up because it seems like there is a lot more collaboration amongst genres happening right now in music than I think ever before. You
said there's a lot more collaborations?
Yeah, I feel like you look at an artist like her, and she straps on a guitar and just starts shredding. And you look at somebody like Post Malone, who's bringing the Red Hot Chili Peppers or Aerosmith up on stage. And, you know, there's somebody like a Machine Gun Kelly, who now all of a sudden has gone from being a hip hop guy and now he's a pop punk guy. And it seems to me like some of the genres are starting to blend together a little bit, and that other genres are starting to pick up the guitar and use it in their own music.
Well, that's a beautiful thing. Yeah, I think you're right. I think the lines are definitely being blurred right now. I think that's also a great thing, because that's how genres or styles kind of reinvent themselves, by trying different things and trying, maybe, thinking outside of the box, is a really good thing when you're doing music, because that's how you come up with fresh ideas. So, yeah.
I mean, Volbeat does that a lot with the rockabilly stuff and turning it into metal, and blending these genres to make something totally different.
Yeah. We just have fun.
You also were part of a band for a time that was famous for blending genres, talking about Anthrax. And they're doing this whole video series celebrating their 40th anniversary that I know you and Michael were all helping out with and taking a part in. Can you talk about, from a rock and metal perspective, how important Anthrax is in that kind of timeline of the genre?
There's a car alarm going.
I thought it was another bird.
Oh my God. I mean, Anthrax, their contribution to the world of metal and even hip hop is undeniable. You know what I mean? Back when they did I'm the Man, their musical sensibilities, it's incredible what they did, because they did, especially back then when all of that was going down. It took a lot of guts for a metal band to do a rap song, you know what I mean? And they did it, in such a cool way, and there was a sense of humor about it, but it was also serious. It was great. It was killer, and then obviously what they did with Public Enemy, Bring the Noise, also incredible. So, yeah. I don't know if that answered the question.
No, it totally did. When you get back out on the road, the only date that I've seen you guys have in the U.S. right now is the Aftershock Festival.
Right. Yeah, there might be some shows around that. We're not totally sure. Nothing is... There's whispers right now. We don't know. Nothing's confirmed. So, we'll see.
The musical festivals in Europe are legendary. And now it seems like the American festivals are really starting to grow and starting to get established. How do you think a festival like Aftershock matches up to some of the giant European festivals that Volbeat has played as well?
I think the U.S. has kind of been catching up for a while now. It's not just this year or last year. The U.S. festivals have been great for a while now. Aftershock is going to be great. They were doing Rock on the Range for years in Ohio. That was a great festival. It's the same concept, the same thing. You have, all the bands on the bill and different days and different stages. And it's just it's a real treat for the fans, But yeah, the European festivals are amazing. I really love the UK festivals just because of the history and all that stuff. You know, the Download Festival is always a great one. Although it does rain all the time. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, to be honest. I don't know if you can really compare them. It's a bit of a different vibe, but not really, you know?
All of the bands that I've been talking to cite one of the things they miss the most is the relationship between the bands themselves and their fans, and having that stripped away for so long. Your ability to not be able to play, that gathering place for the fans to be able to go and all kind of get together.
Yeah.
What do you say to the fans that have just missed Volbeat because the world shut down?
I would just tell them to hang in there. We're coming for you. Just a matter of time, you know? That's it. I think we're all turning the corner on all this craziness. At least that's what it seems like to me anyway. And yeah, it's only a matter of time.
I started asking a question to songwriters and musicians kind of on a whim. I think the Royal Blood guys were the first guys that I asked the question. And now I'm asking everybody the question because I love everybody's answer. So I'll pose it to you as well.
Sure.
As a songwriter, this is a songwriter's perspective. Mm-hmm. As a songwriter, what is a song from any artist or genre or era that you wish you wrote?
Oh my God. There's so many.
And why? And why?
Let's see. Can I do more than one?
Absolutely. You can do whatever you want. But I want to know the answer why, though. I want you to break it down from a songwriter's perspective.
The Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin. In my opinion, that's it might actually be the heaviest riff ever. Or at least one of them for me. And the crazy thing about that riff is it's one note. It's just an octave. You know what I mean? It's just absolutely brilliant. I think Jimmy Page still is. He's a genius, you know, huge inspiration. Let's see, what's another song? Eleanor Rigby by the Beatles. Brilliant song. Absolutely brilliant. I mean, all of their songs are brilliant, but yeah, just the mood that they captured, the melody, the lyrics, everything about that song is just, in my opinion, magical, you know?
I talked to Jacoby Shaddix from Papa Roach, and he said that Helter Skelter could be like the first heavy metal song because it's so heavy. That it's
interesting.
That even before Black Sabbath, who kind of gets the credit for inventing metal, that it you know, the screaming and it's funny how often because I'm a huge Beatles fan, but it's funny how often the Beatles come up in this podcast, and people that hate the Beatles must just go, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how anyone could hate the Beatles. That doesn't add up to me. It doesn't make sense. You know, everything, like the songwriting, the aesthetic, the sound of the records. I mean, everything about it was so high level. I can't imagine people not digging it. You know, they were the masters of songwriting. You know, their songs are amazing. They're infectious. Yeah, another band too. I call them the Beatles of punk rock, but the Misfits, huge influence on me. You know, every single song I think is a masterpiece, you know, especially from that original era. You know, the songs are so catchy and so well crafted, you know. Even, you know, within the chaotic framework of a punk rock band, it's like brilliant songs, you know. So
writing a pop song is not as easy as people might think it is. There's a lot of difficulty in that simplicity.
It's not easy at all. It's actually extremely hard to write a good pop song. Yeah.
I knew your answers were going to be good.
I mean, you know, the thing about pop music is it is in a certain way, you know, in a certain sense, it is simple, but because of that, it makes it really hard to do stuff that's creative and stuff that connects with people. You know what I mean? You have to really be amazing. You know, that's like, it's a hard thing. So
you're somebody that has their finger kind of on the pulse of the next generation of bands because you work in a producing capacity and you do a lot of the behind the scenes work too. Are there some bands that I should keep my eye out for that you're working with that we're going to hear from soon?
Ooh, there's some stuff on the horizon. Well, there's actually a band that I started. I have to go back and finish. I started it before the pandemic and then everything got locked down. But there's a great band called Like Machines out of Atlanta. It's a 3-piece killer rock band. I did a few tracks for those guys. It came out really good. So just got to go back down to Atlanta very soon. I'm going to be doing that. And there's a couple of things on the horizon that I can't really discuss right now. But yeah, keep your ears open, Carrie.
When you get back out on tour and you're on the bus and you're on the road and it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you stop at a truck stop, what do you miss from the truck stops at 3 a.m. that you are just going to go in and buy?
Well, I hate truck stops. What I miss is the late 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Walmart adventures. So that's what we do. We go to Walmart and just ravage through the store and just go crazy.
What's some of the stuff that the guys in Volbeat have bought at Walmart at 2 a.m.?
Oh my God, all kinds of stuff. Pajamas, socks, usually pillows because the pillows on the bus are terrible. Usually. Stuff like that. Food, stock in the fridge. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We've sky's the limit when you go to Walmart. They have everything. So.
And you just freak out the kids that are working there at that hour too, because they're like, "Is that Volbeat?"
Usually late at night, there's not a lot of people in the store. It's a good time to go. I mean, there might be a few zombies here and there, like dragging their legs down the aisle, but for the most part,
it looks like the cast of Tiger King in there.
Yeah.
Did you get sucked into that in all your Netflix viewing, by the way?
I saw the Tiger King. I don't know. The way it was talked up so much to me that I was expecting more. I was like, whatever. It was cool. It was interesting. Dude's crazy.
I felt like I gave up 8 hours of my life that I can never get back because I literally hated every single person on the show.
Yeah, I wasn't so into it.
It's just very strange.
Yeah.
Well, you got 2 new songs out from Volbeat that you did transcontinental digitally through the wonders of modern technology. I'm going to start calling it Doggin 4 because that's how you told me to say it.
That's how I would say it. Yeah, that's not obviously the correct way to say it, but we're American.
And it features Stein Bromson.
Stina Bramson.
Okay, see, I knew I was going to mispronounce it. That's why I wanted to ask you.
Yeah, she's great. She definitely took the song to a higher level, I think. Yeah.
And then there's another song called Wait a Minute, My Girl. So those 2 songs right now are available, and whether or not they end up coming out as part of a full-length album or whatever from Volbeat, we're just going to have to wait and see.
Right.
Was this the band's attempt at just trying to make everyone happy, writing like summer songs?
I don't know about that. I think it's the first stuff that came out, I don't think there was any real plan as far as that goes, write a summer song, I don't think it was like that.
It's just been really funny to watch like musicians experiencing like the same challenges and to see how those challenges get filtered through the bands. And it's either songs that are like, fuck you, you fucking fuck, I hate you, I hate life, I want to kill everyone. Or they come out with something kind of uplifting and happy and something that is totally different.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think when shows start happening and all that stuff, it's going to be really emotional, I think. And I everybody's been working on music during this time, and there's going to be a lot of different, a lot of different sounds coming out. I think really soon. There's going to be pissed, like you just said, pissed off stuff, happy stuff. I mean, if we really truly are turning the corner on all this, it's definitely something to celebrate. So we'll see.
Well, I had to completely reinvent everything over the last year and a half, and launching a company, launching a podcast, a website, a video show, getting back on the radio in a totally different way. One of the things that I've learned about this entire process over the last year and a half is that the relationships I've made in this business with the people that I know and the people that I've known forever, they weren't just part of the show. And the fact that you came on the show today and that you've been so generous with your time is just another example. And I'm so grateful that personally losing WAAF, something I was a part of for 29 years and a station I grew up listening to, was catastrophic for me, both personally and professionally. And one of the things I was worried about was that in losing the station, I was going to lose everything, my career, everything.
First of all, you were WAAF, in my opinion. So, yeah, you just got to keep doing what you're doing. You're awesome. You've always been awesome.
Well, it really means a lot that there has been so much love and support coming from everyone, but I'm talking to you. So thank you for, always being there, always being willing to sit down and answer my ridiculous questions.
Your questions are always great. What are you talking about?
And I can't wait. I don't know when it's going to be, but I can't wait to see you in person again. And yes, to be able to take it for granted that we're just sitting next to each other, mask-free, backstage at a show again.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well. I might actually head up your way soon. My favorite Italian restaurant is up in Boston.
Oh, hold on. Let me guess. Hold on. You're not a tourist guy. So I'm going to say that you're going to go to a more local spot. I'm going to guess, and I totally don't know the answer to this question. I'm going to say Reno's. Is it Reno's?
It's not Reno's, but I've been hearing a lot about that place. I've never been there. I got to try it.
I will take you there. If you come up here, I will take you to Reno's. Their eggplant is something sent straight from God.
All right.
It's so good.
I go to a place called Giacomo's. I think that's my favorite.
Dude, so let me tell you about Giacomo's.
All right.
So I ran the Boston Marathon in 2019 when the world was still somewhat normal. And they tell you to, go and carb up the weekend before you run the marathon.
Right.
So I went with a bunch of other people that were running the marathon, and we waited 2.5 hours in line because it's an old school, family-owned Italian restaurant in the Italian section of Boston called the North End. They don't take credit cards, and they don't take reservations. So you just wait.
That's right.
And we sat out there for 2.5 hours. And when I tell you I went house on Giacomo's, you know how big their portions are. I ate the whole thing.
Yeah. That place is incredible.
It's so good.
Yep.
Well, when you come to town, we're going out to dinner, and it's either going to be to Giacomo's, and I'll wait in line with you, or I'll take you to Reno's because that place is great too.
Okay. Yeah, I'll put a little hang together. When I come up there, I'll hit you up.
You let me know because I would love to see you. And one of the things that is different post-COVID or during COVID that I think is going to stick around is that they closed a lot of the parking spaces on Hanover Street in Boston and allowed all of the restaurants to create outdoor dining in them. And it is
New York,
awesome.
Yeah, New York's doing the same thing, and that's a great thing. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Cool. So you're saying Giacomo's has outdoor seating?
Yes.
Oh my God. All right, I'm coming up soon.
Well, you hit me up and we'll go. I love their fettuccine with peas and prosciutto. It's my favorite.
You got to get it's a cross between Fra Diavolo sauce and their house Giacomo sauce. They call it the Fracamo sauce. It's literally life-changing. So good.
There's something about having a good meal, man. You know, it's just some good wine and a good meal. I'm a simple person. I don't need much.
I agree. Same.
Well,
same.
Until we can do that, enjoy your mom's meatballs, because once you get out on the road, you're not going to have them for a while.
I know.
It was so good to see you. Thank you so much for hanging out with me.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
And hit me up when you come up.
Absolutely.
Sure.
I absolutely will.
All right. Tell the rest of the guys I said hi and that I can't wait to see you guys when you're finally back on the road. Maybe I'll bump into you at Walmart at 2 a.m.
Maybe.
All right. I'll talk to you soon, Rob. I'll see you later.
Carrie. All right. Talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.
There he is, Bobby Jaguar from Volbeat. Huge thanks to Rob Caggiano from Volbeat and all of the music we talked about, including Dagen 4, is in the corresponding playlist that you can find in the show notes of this podcast episode. Every full-length episode of the Mistress Carrie podcast has a corresponding playlist, so you can go in and listen to all of the music we talked about. In the show notes, you will also find links to find Rob online, to find Volbeat online, and to find me online as well. Huge thanks once again to our sponsors, Digital Federal Credit Union at dcu.org, and also Jumptown Skydiving at jumptown.com. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss anything. Full-length episodes of the Mistress Carrie podcast come out every Wednesday. Plus, every weekday, you get the situation reports that are all of your rock news and music headlines in just 5 minutes. So you get a sit rep every weekday morning waiting for you so you can get filled in on all of the news. You can also join me live every Tuesday night at 8:30 Eastern on my Facebook page for Cocktails in the War Room. And don't forget to go shopping in my store at mistresscarrie.com. The Mistress Carrie Podcast, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network.